Hey everybody, Omar here, the Knife Shark Guy. I'm back with another fun-filled video for you today. And today, I'm just going to talk about customs in general, and how this hobby has led me to where I am now in knife collecting. As everybody knows, I actually started out collecting budget folders, mostly Kershaw. The Kershaw discontinued line was what I was collecting, until, of course, I went into the Blade Gallery and purchased my first custom knife, and it's been full-on custom ever since. So I just wanted to kind of go over this hobby and this obsession with custom knives, because there's a lot of talk out there. Well, when you're buying a custom knife, you're really just buying the maker, and that is true in some sense. But you don't really realize that until a little later on, because there are certain knives that catch your eye, and you have to have it because you're a fan of the way the knife looks, so you want to know more about the maker, so on and so forth, and why they're actually important to custom knife making. So what you see in front of you here are some of my favorite, and in my opinion, my most unique knives. Some are here on the table strictly because there's a personal, I've got sort of a personal connection with the piece. And others are because I found the knife to be really unique and I've never seen that before. So I'm just going to go over some of my custom knives that are in my collection. This is roughly like a third of what I own. So not that some of the other ones in the other drawers aren't my favorites. They are. It's just that these knives here kind of explain why I collect custom knives for certain reasons. So I'm just going to go over all the knives and why they catch my eye. Maybe you can find something similar in the way you collect knives, and maybe that's probably why I'm doing this video. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. So this knife is made by Des Horn. This is called the Slim Boo-Voo. This is definitely a knife that I needed to have in my collection for several reasons. One of the first reasons that I have this knife in my collection is that it's made by Des Horn, who is a legendary knife maker, and probably one of the first guys ever around to make custom knives. He's one of the guys that started it all. Him and Owen Wood would be another South African knife maker. All the knives in this collection are made by South African knife makers. At this moment in time, I'm only collecting from South Africa at this time because I think that their styles are very unique. They know how to push the envelope between art and tool to the point where they keep adding a little bit extra so that it's you can still see it's a tool, but yet they didn't go over fully into the art knife world, which is quite ironic that I'm actually saying that about Des Horn, because he actually started making knives at a time when there really wasn't the kind of marketability that they have for knives now. Like I said, Des Horn is one of the forefathers of South African knife making. He actually started it all. And if you check out his website, you will see that a lot of his knives are much more artsy looking than what you see here. This is more of an EDC piece, which is why I had to have it. This knife is definitely one that's more of an EDC carry rather than one of his normal normal art pieces that you see on his website. They are very, very elaborate. Des Horn even makes a custom automatic knife that I have yet to even experience. I've never seen it. I mean, I've seen pictures of it, but I haven't actually held it or even known how it works. But yeah, I needed to have one of his knives in the collection, and this is the one that I chose. So this knife is made from G10 with a twist. The knife is made by hand. It is not... It is, as far as I understand, I believe it's one of a kind. I think it is. I'd have to check my books. But yeah, this is a G10 with a twist. The steel on it is very, very rare. It's Nitrobe 77. That's one of the reasons why the knife's in my collection, because it's a steel that I've never seen before. And yet, this knife cuts like a razor, and it goes through an extensive heat treatment by Des Horn himself, and he is an awesome knife sharpener, as you can see. Knife sharpening is a very, very special skill, and Des Horn is definitely one of the guys that knows how to do it. The other thing that I had to have this knife in my collection was because it doesn't run on ball bearings. See, it just runs only on washers. There are no, there's no ball bearings in this knife, and yet it's as smooth as any ball bearing piece I've ever owned. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how that happens. There's zero blade play on this knife. It doesn't have any at all, and yet it only runs on washers, and it is as smooth as silk. Again, it's called the Des Horn Slim Vubu. I guess it stands for like skinny hippopotamus, or I believe that's what it is. It has the twist. It's got that twist design going all the way around the knife, even to the back of the liners on there. It gives that twist effect. Really very pretty. He does make a knife called an Vubu, which is the next piece that Des Horn is currently going to make for me, and I really can't wait to get it. It's actually the brother of this knife. This knife is actually much more rare, I think, than the Imbuvu. But the Imbuvu was the Imvubu was the one that started it all, and this is one of his everyday carries. Also, this is also one of the few knives in his collection that has a pocket clip. Des Horn does not do pocket clips, so I wanted to have a knife that had a pocket clip on it. So I chose this one. So this knife is definitely not a representation of Des Horn's work fully. Like I said, he usually does very, very artsy, but yet beautiful works of art type knives. They're so pretty, you probably wouldn't even want to use those knives. They are, like I said, they are art knives. So that's the Des Horn Slim Vubu. On to the next one. This knife is in my collection, probably my most cherished, because it's actually my first true custom knife, in a sense that I had the maker actually make this knife for me. He sent pictures of it through Instagram on how the knife was being made, which each picture that he sent me was blowing me away. This knife is made by Andre Thorburn. He is, again, like Des Horn, one of the guys that's become the staple of knife making in South Africa. This is the kind of quality that you seek in a piece, is what this knife represents. I had to have a custom knife made from Andre Thorburn. It would be kind of like getting Elvis Presley's autograph for those guys that are around my age, if you could understand that concept. You got to have something from a popular knife maker, and one that still does it the way, in other words, he's a popular knife maker, but he has not let that affect the way he makes the knives or the way he interacts with his customers. He is just a sweet, sweet, sweet man. I can't stress that enough. So anyway, this is a full custom piece that I had made for me by Andre Thorburn. This has white Westinghouse micarta on it. The eagle, which is on both sides of the knife, was done by his wife, Marguerite. She's the one that does all the bolster work. So he and his wife are actually a team. So it's kind of fun to have a knife like this in your collection, just because of that whole concept of teamwork between husband and wife. And it really shows on the piece as well, because you got that hard edge use, that hard edge part of the knife, where it speaks, volumes as far as like masculinity and everything, right? But then in the middle of all that, you have this beautiful artwork done by his wife. It's just a wonderful, wonderful combination. I'm really happy to have it in my collection. The steel is M390 on this knife. The bolster work is zirconium. It also has the file work on the back. I have to stress that I can't stress this enough. When I did the video on this knife, I actually said that it was done by CNC machining. I was wrong. Andre Thorburn actually does the file work on his knives by hand himself. Can you imagine somebody doing that? That's absolutely crazy. The backspacer is G10. It runs on ceramic bearings for that silky smooth action. I mean, you won't find this in a production piece where the knife just closes shut like that. With just simple turn of the knife, it'll just close shut. You won't find that on a production knife. They just don't have the expense or the time it takes to have that kind of quality that it takes to make a knife in that fashion, which is why you go custom eventually if you're going to continue on in this hobby. So that's why that knife's in this collection. This next one is in my collection, just because it caught my eye. I've never seen a knife that looks like this. It's, called snake wood. I've seen tons of materials on custom knives. You've got everything from shredded to marble carbon fiber to Damascus. And then I came across this piece, and it's snake wood. I don't even know how... when I saw it, it just caught my eye. Everything about the way the knife looks, and it just caught my eye. I had to have it. First of all, the liners are gold. I've never seen that on a knife before. When I saw that, I had to have it. It's very classic, very old-fashioned, a little bit of the old world, a lot of the new. I mean, I had to have that. Plus, the design of the knife blew me away with, this carbon fiber around the border type thing going. I don't even know what that is, but I saw that. It just blew me away. And then like this snake wood, which almost looks like a leopard. I had to have this. The other thing too is you would think that this is two pieces, right? You would think that this would be like an inlay over here, and then this would be placed on top of it. It's not. It's all one piece. Everything is all one piece on this. Nobody even knows how the hell Andre Van Heerden did that. I don't know how he did it. It's just amazing because you can run your finger along here. You don't feel any lines or anything it's just one whole freaking piece. I don't know how he did that. Again, interesting material, caught my eye, a zirconium pocket clip. I've never seen that either. So, again, it depends on what's going to catch your eye once you get into custom knife making. You see something different you'd never seen before, it inspires you that much that you have to have it in your collection. So for me, I mean, it depends. It's the knife maker's style, the materials that he uses, and the way he's executing it on the piece. That's a real turn on for me. And that's why I had to have this knife in the collection. The steel on this knife is CTS XHP. Just really a beautiful, beautiful knife. It just runs on ceramic bearings again. Still waiting to use a lot of these knives, unfortunately. I don't work in an environment where I get to actually use the knife. But the way I look at it, it doesn't matter. I'm carrying one of these in my pocket every day, and you can guarantee that if someone says, "Hey, can you cut open a box for me?" I'm going to be right there with my custom. Can't wait to do it. The next knife is by Erucus Volumerus. So in case I forgot to mention, this knife is made by Andre Van Heerden, and the knife design came from a French designer. I hope I get his name right. His name is Tashi Barucha. He's the designer. The two of them got together and collaborated on this piece. And Andre Van Heerden is a huge knife collaborator. He loves to collaborate with other people. That's another reason why I want to have it in my collection. He's very, very popular with his A2 knives, which are collaborated pieces between him and Andre Thorburn. I don't have one of those in my collection yet, but I'm going to someday, soon. So on to my next piece. Erucus Blomris is the next gentleman. This knife is in my collection. I had to have this because it's blue. I don't know, blue and black. I don't know how else to describe it. It is very, very difficult to get this color blue to be that way without turning completely purple. I don't know how they, as far as I know, there's very little you can do with the color spectrum on these knives as far as coloring. There's a ton of colors you can't do. There's no black. There's no, I believe there's no red. There's no orange. I mean, there's a lot of, the color spectrum for this is very limited, so they have to be very, very careful. Popular colors you'll see will be purple, so it's just the way it is. What can you do? But the knife makers, they work with that, and the people that buy the custom knives, they pretty much accepted it, and I have too. But I got lucky and got one where it's actually blue for a change, so I had to have that. The reason this knife is in my collection is because it's my first full dress piece. I picked this one up at the Blade Gallery. All these knives I bought at the Blade Gallery, by the way, because I don't have, which is sort of a blessing for me because I very rarely buy on eBay these days from people I don't know. So, but yeah, this is my first full dress piece. Full dress piece basically means every part of the knife has some kind of artwork on it. And as you can see, this knife is full-blown art. The steel on it is Damasteel, okay, with that beautiful Damasteel pattern on there. Really very pretty. It's got a Timascus bolster, blue bolster. We have the marble shredded carbon fiber on the handle with the blue titanium liners. It's even got a blue pocket clip, and on the back, the artwork doesn't end, folks. We've got this beautiful twist design on the liners that Erucus does. And it also has a Damascus backspacer, which is kind of unique. So that would constitute a full dress piece. Every part of the knife has got some kind of artwork on it. So that's important. So I wanted to get the full dress piece thing out of the way. I'm probably going to add a couple more to my collection as time goes on. I'm just waiting for something to catch my eye, and I'll get another one. If I'm lucky, maybe I'll find another full-blown dress piece that has red in it somehow. I don't know. But you can guarantee if it does have red on it, I'm going to get that sucker. So there you go. The next knife is, so again, that's from Erucus Blomris. The next knife here, this is from a knife maker who is really working his ass off these days. This is from J.D. Van de Winter. This one is more of his budget line, if you want to call it that, I guess. The table price for this piece, I believe it was $385 for this knife. This is white ivory, G10 on the handle here, with the lightning strike carbon fiber inlay on it. Really very beautiful piece. It is a frame lock custom, and probably my only frame lock piece in my collection. All my other customs are liner locks. This one is a frame lock. Again, it runs only on washers. The knife is very smooth. and the thing flies out like a bat. I mean, that is just beautiful. It's a wonderful little EDC carry. This knife, I had to have this knife just because of the simplicity. Again, it's the concept of less is more, so I had to have it in my collection. There wasn't too much fancy stuff on it. It was a small little EDC. I could put it in my pocket, bring it to work. It, wouldn't scare anybody if I pretty much pop that open. No one's gonna be afraid of it. It's a small knife. It's very, very nice and fun to have in your pocket. Really, just a fun piece to have. And again, more is less, so that's why I had to have that in my collection. My next piece is, again, this is another Erucus Bloomer's piece. I had to have this one just because of the way the knife, not only the way the knife looked, but also the way the knife felt. First of all, I'm not very attracted to heavy knives, right? But for some reason, this knife really caught my eye. Even though it was a heavy knife, I had to have it. I just love the fact that it was a compact, small size knife. Runs on tool steel bearings, and yet the knife falls shut, probably because the blade is so heavy. It is a thick stock knife, if you can see that. Really thick stock, and then it sort of thins out at the tip, but really, that's a really thick stock on a piece like that. Almost a full dress piece, right? It's got the Dama steel bolster this time, as opposed to the Damascus on the last one. Again, with the shredded carbon fiber on it. Shredded carbon fiber on there. Really very pretty overall. And then I turned it over to the back spacer, and I noticed the back spacer was carbon fiber. I never saw that. So this is a perfect example of you maybe looking at a custom knife and seeing materials put in a way that you've never seen before. I've never seen a carbon fiber backspacer before. I didn't know you could even use carbon fiber for a backspacer, but that's what Erucus did on this piece. And it's also not on any of my other knives. I don't have a carbon fiber backspacer on any of my other knives. Usually backspacers are usually G10 for the most part. It's just their go thing, I guess. I don't know. But the knife is very smooth, also very heavy. I love the blade shape. It's that beautiful sheep's foot, which I also didn't have in my collection. I don't have a sheep's foot, so I had to have a sheep's foot blade in there somewhere. Really nice. Very pretty. Steel on it is M390. The steel on most of these knives are M390, with the exception of this piece here. This one is N690, Bowler N690, which is the most popular steel to use in South Africa because it's a really, really good steel and it's very accessible there in South Africa. So they tend to make a lot of their knives out of N690 steel. So the next piece, sort of a challenge for me. This is a Willem Steenkamp. Willem Steenkamp is a lot like Andre Thorburn in the sense that he is all about elegance. I mean, this is a very pretty looking knife. I mean, there's no rough edges on it. Just well done with the looks, if I could just say that. So it caught my eye. I had to have it. Also, the very first knife I ever got with a pivot collar on it. I've never had one of those before, so I had to have that in my collection also. So as you go into your custom knife collecting, you're going to see things and learn about things. I never even knew what a pivot collar was. I know now. So I had to, when I saw this, I had to have it. So it's got that that pivot collar on there. I believe this is also titanium, but I'm not sure. I'm going to have to double check on that. But I think this is titanium with the pivot collar. It just made the knife look much more dressier. The entire knife is made, the handle is made from natural micarta. Looks like wood I mean, again, more is less. The combination of the gold and that brown color, that natural canvas micarta, really makes it look classy. And he continues that look, never differentiating it from the rest of the knife, all the way through. It's just all the same material and put together in a way that is just really classy. I had to have it. I'm more into the elegance of knives than I am into like that rugged, running into the field type thing. This knife does not run on ceramic bearings. It runs on regular tool steel bearings. Still, however, very smooth as you can see. It falls shut with just a quick jerk. So yeah, really very smooth. Again, natural micarta for the backspacer. So here we've got carbon fiber as the backspacer, right? And then here now we've got the natural micarta as backspacer. Whereas usually, like I said, usually you'll find G10 as a backspacer. That's like I said, most custom knife makers, that tends to be their go-between unless a customer specifically asks for a specific material for the knife to be made in that fashion. They'll usually go with G10. So yeah, that's, again, there was a lot of reasons why, but one of the main reasons was the look of the knife. The fact that he only used 2 materials to make the knife, and it looks so pretty and so elegant, caught my eye. You could wear this, with jeans. You could wear it with maybe more dressier clothing. I just love the way that combination allows that, in custom knives. That's just really appealing to me. Again, with the gold pocket clip, I mean, the theme is really pretty. That's why I had to have it. Steel on this, M390 again. Made by Willem Steenkamp, so. And finally, to my 8th piece, and I'm going to bring out a 9th piece in a second. This one is made by Trevor Berger. I've talked about this guy before. One of the most interesting things about Trevor Berger is he likes his knives to be very clean. As you notice, there's no writing on his knives, except for right there where you see his initials on the knife. Other than that, he likes to have a clean look. I had to have this knife in my collection because it is the only caged bearing system piece in my collection. All my other customs in my knife collection are all IKBS. This one is actually a caged bearing system. Now, the thing that's interesting about a caged bearing system is that Trevor Berger does his own. He does his own, and most custom knife makers, whatever is on the knife, they do it themselves. It's not like there is a patent system and they're just going to go ahead and use that. No, every knife maker does their own system inside the knife. And in this case, Trevor Berger does his own caged bearing system. When I mean caged bearing system, those of you that are into production knives, you may have heard of KBT. Well, this is Trevor Berger's version of KBT. And what's interesting about this knife, it's not only is it a caged bearing system, I believe the ball bearings inside are ceramic. So that was definitely a reason to have it in my collection. Number one, it's a caged bearing system, and number two, the ball bearings aren't tool steel bearings, they're ceramic. I've never heard of that either. So that combination, again, made me want to have it in my collection. Anything that's different, anything that's unique, anything that's new, that I've never seen before and it catches my eye, I've got to have it. And probably for a lot of you, maybe you don't collect this way, or maybe you do. But we all know most of us collect with our eyes. And while I do that, I also like to ask a lot of questions as far as the system that made the knife, why the knife is made that way. Anything interesting anyone can tell me about the knife, that may actually affect me purchasing the knife. That may not be that way for you, but that's the way it is for me when I went into knife collecting. My final piece is actually the big brother to this little guy. This is my Trevor Berger Dakar flipper, and also my final purchase, which I bought about 3 weeks ago. I already did a video on this. This knife has just been on my radar for so long. I think it's been on my radar for about a year until I finally gave up and just bought it. And I have been enjoying the hell out of it ever since. It's definitely, I don't know, it might be the smoothest knife in my collection, to be honest with you. Thorburn does the same thing, but this one doesn't even stop. It just drops. Don't know how. There's no blade. I mean, obviously things like blade play on custom knives, they don't even exist. Just an overall great look. Again, only 2 materials on the knife. Again, it matches this one, so that's why I had to have it. So you got like the full lightning strike carbon fiber slab on this knife, and then you got it partly on this Dakar flipper with the blue titanium up there. So yeah, really very pretty. Super smooth. Not very many materials on it. Basically, it's just a G10 backspacer with the lightning strike carbon fiber and the blue titanium. That's all. And it doesn't have to have a ton of materials on it for me to like the knife. If the knife has really great action and you know, if it's got fantastic action and I love the colors of the piece and I love the way it flips, you know, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I think for the most part, for me, it's always going to be more about like the quality of the knife than I mean, quality obviously is number one for me. And then the way the knife looks would be too. But then again, when you reach this level, the quality is just always going to be there. I can't remember who said it, but I believe it was Epic Snuggle Bunny who said that once you reach the $240 price point on a piece, everything else is just diminishing in return. And I think that that's very true. When you reach this level, your expectations reach a certain level of, I don't know how to describe it. I think ridiculous. Because once you get your first custom knife, if they don't all have that level of quality, then you know something's wrong. But so far, like I said, I've got 20 custom knives. I have yet to be disappointed in any of them. In any of these. Which says a lot about the makers who work so hard to give you these works of art. And that's another thing. These knife makers, you can talk to them. You know, you can converse with them. You can ask them whatever you want to ask them regarding their artwork. They're always interested to keep the market open for people that have a passion for this hobby. Because they know that you guys are spending the money for top-notch quality, and they do nothing but make sure that they deliver it 100% on point. So this is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy, just talking about custom knives in general, why my collection is the way it is, and the way I collect. Again, maybe you guys might do it differently. But again, for the most part, and I think for everyone that collects custom knives, it's about the quality, it's about the materials, and then of course it's about the action, and then so on and so forth. It all goes on down the line to encompass a perfect cutting tool at that point in time. That's what you're looking for. So if you are a fan of knives, any of you guys out there that are a fan of knives, you know what I'm talking about. This is basically the passion that's just blabbing on and on about it. But you really can't help it. The hobby does get you eventually. So this is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy, signing off, hoping you'll find one of these beautiful pieces of sharp art in your collection. This has been a lot of fun to do this video. I'm really very sorry that I ran it very long. None of my videos are scripted, so I do apologize for that. Maybe one day I will do a scripted one, who knows. Otherwise, we're just freestyling it for a while. So this is Omar the Knife Shark Guy, hoping you'll find one of these pieces of sharp art in your collection. Thank you very much, and you guys have a fantastic evening.